This video is all about nouns and noun phrases. We'll define what a noun is and how we form noun phrases, then focus on another important element of the noun phrase, the determiner. Let's start with nouns. A noun is a word that typically names a person, place, thing, or idea. This is a simple notional definition. For example, students, library, learning, success. But in more technical terms, a noun is a word that shows the following properties. Nouns can typically appear in both singular and plural forms. Compare student with students. That's a regular noun because we add s to form the plural. Irregular nouns become plural by changing the word stem in some way. So child becomes children, goose becomes geese, and mouse becomes mice. We can also make many nouns possessive. For example, the author's rough draft was already in great shape. Importantly, a noun can appear as the head word in a noun phrase. That's the central word that determines the grammatical identity of the entire string of words. In a noun phrase, the noun head will often come after a determiner, words such as the, some, or my, and maybe even an adjective or two. My rough draft needs a lot of work. Sometimes a noun can modify another noun to form a compound noun. Think of examples such as chalkboard, sister-in-law, house party, student experience. A noun that modifies another noun is called a noun qualifier or an attributive noun. Last but not least, a noun will often fill certain slots or positions in our sentences and perform predictable jobs as sentence subjects, sentence objects, and sentence complements. Consider these sentences. In cats sleep for 12 hours a day, cats is the sentence subject. But in the sentence Gustav Klimt loved cats, it's now functioning as a direct object. And in my first family pet was a cat, now the word cats is a sentence complement, telling us what the subject is equivalent to. Not every noun will follow all of these patterns. Nouns belong to the open or lexical class of English words. We have so many of them that they don't all behave exactly the same way. But a prototypical noun should be able to inflect for number and possession. It should be able to appear in a noun phrase, preceded by a determiner and one or more adjectives, and it should be able to function as a subject, an object, or a complement. When we form a new noun via derivation, that means by adding a suffix, we call it a nominalization. In English, we often derive nouns from adjectives and verbs by adding familiar suffixes including ness, tion, and ment. For example, the adjective willing becomes willingness as a noun. The verb create becomes creation as a noun. Nominalizations are always abstract. They're nouns that refer exclusively to concepts. Other nouns may be concrete or abstract depending on what they refer to. A concrete noun refers to something we can perceive with our senses. That is, something we can see, touch, hear, feel, taste, or smell, such as the herb thyme. Abstract nouns refer to things we can only think about or imagine. For example, the concept of time. Additional subcategories of nouns include count and non-count nouns, common and proper nouns, and collective nouns. Count nouns are, quite literally, nouns that can be counted. 1 cat, 2 cats, 3 cats, and so on. Other examples include 1 tree versus 1,000 trees, or 2 students compared with 25 students. If you can logically count a noun, it belongs to this category. Non-count or mass nouns appear only in quantities. For example, rice, foliage, furniture, timber. We can refer to some rice or lots of foliage, but we can't count these nouns as discrete items. 5 furnitures sounds wrong or somehow illogical. So does 17 rices or 1 foliage. But we can refer to grains of rice, for example, or pieces of timber, where we break the mass noun into its constituent parts. Common nouns are nouns that refer to general, non-specific people, places, or things. Nouns like mountain, street, or university. Proper nouns refer to specific people, places, or things, such as Mount Everest, Baker Street, or Cambridge University. In written English, we use capital letters to distinguish proper nouns. For example, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Collective nouns are nouns that name a group of people, animals, or things, such as a panel of judges, a band of musicians, a flock of sheep, or a deck of cards. Even though collective nouns represent more than one person or object, we usually treat them as grammatically singular in a sentence. For example, the jury has reached a verdict. A flock of cockatoos is screeching. Look out for collective nouns in your writing and editing. Because they have a singular form but a plural referent, they can be difficult to match up with the correct verb form sometimes. Let's explore noun phrases in more detail. A noun phrase is a group of words built around a noun head. Other words may come before or after the noun head to give it more precision and detail. For example, the book, my old computer, 3 very interesting ideas, those students waiting outside the lecture theatre. In each case, the noun phrase contains a head noun as its core, as well as some additional words that modify or limit its meaning. A noun phrase often follows this basic pattern. A determiner will be followed by some modifiers, then the noun head, and perhaps some post-head modifiers. For example, the tall building, those 2 enthusiastic students, a marvellously useful book, the writers who carefully plan their drafts. Not every noun phrase includes all these parts, but this pattern helps us see how noun phrases are built up in various layers. Like nouns by themselves, noun phrases can also act as different parts of a sentence. Very often they function as a sentence subject. The students arrived early. A noun phrase can also function as a sentence object. For example, we discussed the new policy. And in a sentence like, my cat is a long-haired Russian blue, now a noun phrase is acting as a complement following a linking verb. In any of these positions, noun phrases are critical to how English sentences work. Now let's focus on determiners. A determiner is a word that comes before a noun to help quantify, specify, or otherwise determine it. That's how they get their name. Determiners tell us things like whether the noun is specific or general, whether it's singular or plural, how much or how many of the noun we have, and sometimes which one. Some examples include definite and indefinite articles, the, a, and an, demonstrative determiners, this, that, these, and those, possessive determiners, including my, your, our, Albert Einstein's, quantifiers, including some, many, each, every, several, and cardinal and ordinal numbers, 1, 2, 3, or first, second, and third. Let's look at some examples in action. An author refers to one author, but not a specific one. The author, however, refers to a specific author. That author points at a specific author over there. These 5 authors points to 5 specific authors close by. Let's look at some other examples. Books is general. The books suggests specific books already known in some way. These books points to particular books that are close by, and my books tells us something about possession or ownership. In each case, the noun head remains the same, but the determiner narrows or sharpens the meaning. Together, determiners and nouns form noun phrases that do important jobs in almost every English sentence.